Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. There is a chance, actually, and you will hear from legal scholars, you'll hear from future and former President Trump in a second. But there is a chance that Trump is jailed. I would say maybe 10, 15% chance. 85% chance it's all just theater. If the judge in New York decides to jail a former president and a future president ahead in all the polls, this will be the most catastrophic, monumental political defeat for Democrats. He will definitely win in a landslide because the entire planet knows what's going on. I would say 15% chance. So before I said 0%, but 0% on what he's charged with. This is an unconstitutional obstruction of his ability to speak and express himself with his First Amendment rights. It's a gag order that the court imposed on Trump. So there is a chance, ladies and gentlemen, a minute chance. It would be really politically an amazing catapult for Trump, and it would be a terrible, despotic, tyrannical, unconstitutional decision by Democrats to jail a former president on an unconstitutional gag order. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Listen to exactly why. This is Andrew McCarthy, and he states the legal and political consequences of Democrats miscalculating yet again. He's up in the polls, ladies and gentlemen. He will continue to go up in the polls. It could be a landslide victory, sending Trump to jail for the unconstitutional decision of preventing him from speaking, while Michael Cohen and others are on Twitter or X all the time insulting Trump, and he can't respond back. I mean, they are so petrified of Trump, they tried to ban him with the unconstitutional Colorado ban. That was a 9-0 Supreme Court decision backing Trump, like I told you would happen. Immunity, they tried to strip presidential immunity from him. He's going to get at least partial presidential immunity, a huge, monumental, epic constitutional victory for Trump on the horizon in a couple of weeks. The hush money, even if he's convicted, will be overturned. There's not one. So I still stand by not 1 second will he land in jail or prison for what he's accused of. This is a court procedure. This is a procedural technicality that they could say, well, he's speaking too much. He's doing the most heinous and atrocious thing and speaking his mind. Anyway, hit subscribe. About 15% chance, let's say 85% chance he doesn't. But, well, I mean, this would be a monumental, epic calamity politically for the Democratic Party. Hit subscribe, watch this.
And Fox News contributor Andy McCarthy. Okay, so you have the decoder ring. What did all that just mean?
It's mostly theater at this point, Dana. I mean, he's fighting this politically. The trial is one thing. The gag order stuff is all about the politics of the campaign. And I must say, I think that Judge Merchan understands that putting Trump in jail, which he can do for up to 30 days for any violation of the gag order, would be.
And he would have to, if he did, the Secret Service would actually stay with him 24/7. So I don't know how, maybe 10, 15 people, maybe more, would be with him in jail. Could you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the entire world would laugh at us as a country, not Trump. Trump would be viewed not only as this type of martyr, but he would be viewed as an American hero. The only people who would view Trump as an actual criminal are the most vicious, mean, arrogant, apoplectic, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who want to jail a former president, not for a laptop containing graft and bribery, not for private servers with top secret intelligence, not for all the other crimes that Democrats commit, but for speaking.
A catastrophe politically for Democrats. So He's fining him $1,000 every time. There's no doubt that there are violations of the gag order. I think the gag order is unconstitutional, but that ship has sailed. If I were Trump, I'd be tempted to just give Judge Merchan a check for about $10,000 every Monday and say, this is for this week's violations, and just go do what he's going to do, because I don't think he'll put him in jail.
That's clever. As we like to say, have you read Andy McCarthy today? And we did. And you say, next act in the farce, holding Trump in contempt. The big point you make here, Andy, is that if the judge really wanted to be fair, he would have held this trial until after the November election.
Yeah, well, that's right, Bill. If what your concern is the administration of justice.
This isn't about justice. It's not about the rule of law. It's about going after Trump in the most despotic, tyrannical, totalitarian, authoritarian manner. Okay? When you read like Time magazine or other, like, oh, Trump's second term, oh my God, you couldn't get more tyrannical than the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who have tried to curtail speech and engage in censoring people they don't like, worked with the government through Twitter before X, before Elon Musk took it over. The government, alongside liberal Democrats at that company and left-leaning people at that company, worked with the government. That's what the journalists and Elon Musk and everyone who sees the evidence concluded. They were giving the account, like something like 100 to 200,000 accounts were silenced in one way or another. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I just have H.A. Goodman on YouTube. Hit subscribe. We're over 230,000 subs, everybody. And I have the Bitcoin crash and the stock market crash channels. And unfortunately, soon, I believe, we're going to have a pretty devastating stock market crash, unfortunately. We should have listened to this man right here, okay? But he had a great economy. He presided over a great economy, great foreign policy, but his tweets were mean, so we can't have good things. Hit subscribe right now.
That should be a subordinate concern when we're in a campaign season where there's a public interest in having a presidential campaign with robust political speech and where Trump has a constitutional right to run for office. So if you're worried about the administration of justice, which gives you the ability to do things like gag orders, put the trial off till after the election, and then the judge has a very important interest in the administration of justice. It's not Trump's fault that this trial got scheduled for the campaign. This was tactically done by Bragg for exactly the reason that we're seeing, so that they could clamp down on him, clamp down on his ability to speak, and tie him to a courtroom for weeks at a time when he'd otherwise be on the campaign trail. This is all a strategy by the Democrats, and the judges letting them get away with it.
There's a headline in Forbes. It's called for
S23, hello to the members of this channel. Hello to my super chat. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, they wanted to time everything to ruin Trump. They don't have a good economy. They don't have good domestic policy. They don't have good foreign policy. They can't run on achievement. Democrats cannot run on achievement. They can only run on trying to imprison Trump, which is exactly, they're the despots that they claim Trump is.
said, could Trump be jailed at Rikers Island for contempt in the New York case? Experts say it's possible. Now, that could just be clickbait, but I mean, let's answer the question here. I get, is that within the realm of possibility?
If he's jailed at Rikers or anywhere else, he will have a team, probably 10 to 20 or even more, Secret Service. So he'll be surrounded every second of the day if that ever happened, which would be a political, unmitigated political disaster for Democrats, but he would have Secret Service at Rikers Island. Okay, and I don't even think he would eat the food there. I don't even think he would probably stay like in a typical jail cell. So I don't know what would happen, but he would be treated he wouldn't be the average person arrested and sent to jail. He would have Secret Service 24/7 with him.
Possibility?
Well, Dana, the sentence statutorily is $1,000 and up to 30 days in jail for each offense. That doesn't mean the judge has to impose it. That's the potential statutory sentence. I think that this case is so driven by politics, they understand that putting Trump in jail, even though Trump obviously doesn't want to spend 5 minutes in jail, even with the Secret Service coming along with him, but putting him in would be a catastrophe for the Democrats, I think, in terms of the politics of the election. It would be such overkill for this ridiculous case that I think it would really redound to their detriment. I think the judge knows that. So I think this is all going to be about how many times can we fine a billionaire $1,000 for transgressing a ridiculous gag order.
The irony is if they send him to Rikers, which for a lot of viewers, if you don't know about this prison, it's horrendous.
Right.
It's on an island near the airport of LaGuardia, and Trump would see his former accountant there, Alan Weisselberg, who's now in Rikers for the second time at age 76, Andy. So we'll see what the judge decides.
Another very serious criminal. Not one of those ones doing that unserious stuff at Hamilton Hall or breaking down the campuses.
Yeah, holding a janitor
hostage. This is the second time.
Right, Andy. Thank you.
This is the second time that you got a prosecutor who won't prosecute. He puts this guy in twice.
Yeah.
I believe there were law students in New York 4 years ago in the summer that threw incendiaries at a police vehicle. Okay, I'm just speaking in an algorithmically friendly manner and didn't even get prison time. Okay, I don't quote me on that, I believe. Now you have special counsel Hur stated that Biden had poor memory and diminished faculties, which is why he wasn't indicted. So Biden can have poor memory and diminished faculties, but if Trump speaks his mind, jail. And so the current president, Democrat, can actually commit crimes. But because of poor memory and diminished faculties, and if you look down, hazy and the memory was hazy and poor. And this is the man, special counsel calls it Biden's faulty memory. Okay. This is the man, Biden's memory is hazy and poor. This is a man that's running this country now into the ground. And he doesn't get indicted. But Trump, because of something in 2016 that wasn't a federal FEC crime, the case is so absurd, it's a misdemeanor that they try to elevate to a felony, which isn't a felony because there's no federal crime. Trump could actually serve jail time. And I don't know if Democrats, because I'll just say Democrats, I'm not referring to the judge, I'm not referring to the court, I'm just going to say Democrats, because that's what time it is in that part of the country. Okay? Democrats, if they decide to jail Trump, his poll numbers will go through the roof. His poll numbers will go through the roof. Okay? It would be an unmitigated political disaster for Democrats. An unmitigated, I'd say 15% chance that they jail him. This is the great Alan Dershowitz. Andrew McCarthy was amazing. Alan Dershowitz talking about how it's unconstitutional what's taking place.
To start, sir, with the gag order. Yesterday, we did have the ruling here, and it said defendant is hereby warned that the court will not tolerate continued violations of its lawful orders and that if necessary and appropriate under the circumstances, it will impose an incarceratory punishment. Well, today Trump is out on the campaign trail. Do you think he will be curtailing some of his statements, and should he?
Should not curtail constitutionally protected statements. This judge does not. What he's doing is engaging in prior, which is the core of the First Amendment's prohibition. You cannot stop people from saying things unless they involve the release of the names of spies or nuclear secrets. But you can't impose prior restraint to make a witness a little bit more comfortable. order is so broad, so unconstitutional. If the judge were to impose prison term, it would immediately get to the higher courts, and the Supreme Court would strike it down 9-0. You can prevent somebody from intimidating, threatening jurors, home addresses. But what you can't do is prevent the marketplace of ideas from operating. You have witness Cohen, who's saying all the nastiest things about Trump, having his own podcast, and then Trump can't respond because he's a presumptively innocent defendant who was indicted by a grand jury that would indict a ham sandwich named Trump. If you can do that to Trump, you can do that to anybody, and you certainly can't do it to a man running for president of the United States who has heightened First Amendment protection. So this judge would get a D- with great inflation.
Bill S., thank you so very much. Good mention. If Trump gets jail time, it will be home confinement. Armed Secret Service cannot leave his side and will not be allowed in jail. You're 100% right. I think you're right. And so it would be home confinement, which would not serve the purposes of the Democratic Party, would only make him more popular. His poll numbers would go up. Bill, great point. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for the super chat. Thank you so very much. Great point.
In any course in constitutional law and freedom of speech.
Well, let's see what happens today. We're going to be carrying all of that live. Donald Trump's speeches today. We know this attorney, Keith Davidson, will be back on the stand tomorrow for cross. Professor Dershowitz, some of the exchanges yesterday talked about his dealings with Michael Cohen. He called him excitable. He's called him a guy with his pants on fire sort of guy. I think we have some of the transcript here. But ultimately, what does any of this have to do with the falsifying business charge in the indictment? It seems like, again, they're going around and around with salacious gossip that doesn't show that Trump even had knowledge or intent in this.
Well, at the end of the prosecution's case, his defense lawyers will move to dismiss the charges, and that should be granted. So far, we've heard nothing about crimes. We've heard about catch and kill, not very nice way of conducting journalism, not a crime. We've heard about hush money. Alexander Hamilton paid hush money, and many, many, many other prominent people have paid hush money. There is no crime here. The only technical misdemeanor is barred by this. And, like a resurrection, they try to bring it alive by claiming that his psychoanalytic intent in signing that statement, which they claim is false, and which, of course, Trump had nothing to do with signing himself, was solely to affect federal election law. But the federal government, which has jurisdiction over federal election law, said, no, we're not going to charge Trump with that. No crime here. Right. I've been teaching 60 years writing. Declined. I don't get it. I don't.
Well, there's no crime there, but we can go back again. So even left-leaning publications, diminished faculties, poor memory, our current president, Biden has. Poor memory and diminished faculties allowed him to circumvent indictment. Could you imagine if Trump's defense was poor memory and diminished faculties? Every single night, late-night comedians would make fun of him, would try to disparage him. But Biden and Democrats could get away with poor memory and diminished faculties, no problem. They might actually, I don't think they will. I'm going to update my current analysis or viewpoint on this. But you know what? I still say, okay, I have stated for a long time, Trump will not spend even a second in jail or prison for the crimes he's accused of. I never expected that curveball or that off-speed pitch or that slider. I wasn't expecting it. So I'm updating my analysis to I'd give them a 15% chance. I mean, that might be all they have. If they can point, see, their mentality is make everything such a spectacle and a circus and a roller coaster ride that the average American is tired of it. Okay? They want Trump fatigue. They just want people to be tired of their apoplectic meltdown regarding Trump. That's the actual Democratic Party political strategy. They can't run on the economy. They can't run on foreign policy. And Trump is willing to do it. He'd make the sacrifice for free speech. It's all in the news right now. Trump says jail time to defend free speech is a sacrifice he's willing to make. So, I mean, if they try to jail Trump, like Bill said in the super chat, it's only going to help former and future President Trump. I don't see that. It could be. I think that he could win Minnesota. I think he could win Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. He could just Nevada, Virginia. I mean, any purple state, and even like a blue state that like Minnesota. How on earth is he competitive in Minnesota? So people are tired. They are tired of the Democratic Party. If they jail him, it only helps his poll numbers, but that might be all they have. Again, if they jail Trump, it will not be because of the crimes he committed. Just like those people in prison in the Mueller probe were not imprisoned for the crimes they were accused of. They were allegedly lied to the Bureau and other things like that. So, let's listen to President Trump. This is today.
The gag order, as to that first question, as you know, they've taken away my constitutional rights, so I'm not allowed to answer that question. This has never happened in this country before. It's a ridiculous thing. It's a ridiculous case. I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. Take a look at Greg Jarrett this morning. He went on. Take a look at Andrew McCarthy or Jonathan Turley or Mark Levin. It's like they say there's no case here. And yet the judge has gagged me, and I'm not allowed to talk about, I guess, his total conflict. The judge is totally conflicted, and you ought to take a look at it. And I'm not supposed to be talking about it. But I am allowed to say that the judge has a conflict that like nobody's ever had before. You ought to take a look at it. He's taken away my constitutional right to speak. I was in Miami this weekend, and reporters are asking me questions, the same questions like you're asking me, and I have to say I have a gag order, I can't speak about it. Never happened before, ever. Number one. Number two, it's a fake trial. They have no case. And it's been absolutely proven now. They have no case whatsoever. This is Alvin Bragg doing it for political reasons for Biden. This is a Biden trial. He's a crooked president. Now, it just came out, Columbia just canceled their commencement. Axios. Columbia just canceled their commencement. That shouldn't happen. And it also came out that the protesters, many of the protesters, are backed by Biden's donors. Okay? Are you listening, Israel? I hope you're listening, Israel. Hope you're getting smart. But they're backed by Biden donors. That's where the money's coming from. And I'm not surprised at all. There's many other articles, many of them having to do with the gag order and the unconstitutionality having to do with the gag order. And it is unconstitutional, and it shouldn't be allowed. And I wish people could move a little bit quicker, the appellate courts, because the whole world is watching this and they see what's happening. More importantly, frankly, they have no case. They have absolutely no case. It's a political hoax. It's election interference. Anything they can do. And even the witnesses they want to bring up, they have nothing to do with the case. This is a ridiculous situation. Not fair. Not fair. But we will fight. Thank you. Mr. President,
So, I mean, it's pretty obvious what's taking place. Trump is going up in the polls. They don't like it. They don't know what to do. Domestically, they're losing young people. They're losing people of color in terms of voting demographics. Democrats are losing key core demographics. Inflation Everyone feels inflation is a tax upon everyone, especially the poor. So Biden can't run on a good economy because interest rates are too high and then inflation is too high. So, okay, then you have foreign policy as an unmitigated disaster. Biden doesn't really have a foreign policy. He governs through public relations. And so what can they do? They might be in a situation, ladies and gentlemen, Democrats might be in a situation where all they have is trying to appease a base of voters that absolutely are the most apoplectic, Trump deranged people on the planet. So they might have to, in their minds, jail Trump for his speech. And so but that would backfire. That would be the opposite. That would be a unmitigated political disaster for Democrats. His poll numbers would go through the roof. It would go through the roof. Let's go ahead. Okay. Hold on one second. This is Trump's attorney. Hold on one second.
What is it? What is this? How can an ordinary juror figure this out?
Yeah, look, the biggest problem with this case is that President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong and should have obviously never been indicted. We're talking about business records entries made in 2017 that accurately reflected payments that President Trump made to his own lawyer. Alvin Bragg's trying to concoct some sort of election rigging scheme from.
The FEC fined the Clinton campaign and the DNC for purchasing the Steele dossier, which was, of course, a campaign finance violation. It was full of lies, information that misinforms, deceptive statements, deceit. I mean, it was just a compilation of utterly fake and phony news, a hoax. And Democrats and publications tried desperately to make it respectable. It was campaign. Oh, by the way, the DNC that year railroaded Bernie Sanders. They probably used the money going to Bernie Sanders to pay for it. But anyway, they were fined by the FEC. The FEC did not fine Trump, even if he had told Michael Cohen and paid Michael Cohen with personal checks that said for Stormy. It still wouldn't have been a violation because it's not a campaign violation if it's a personal payment or personal purchase or expenditure that would have taken place with or without a campaign or a presidential contest. For example, he might have, but the celebrities have, a lot of people have done the whole hush money thing, and they weren't running for office. That's just something that even one of the key witnesses of the National Enquirer stated. He did so for a whole lot of celebrities. So, and also the main point is if he wanted to hide it from Melania or protect her and his family and protect their feelings, that alone doesn't make it. That alone is a personal expense, has nothing to do with the campaign. And it's not a campaign finance violation, which is a federal crime. A federal crime is needed to elevate the misdemeanors. The misdemeanors have already expired in terms of the statute of limitations. So what they did was they say, well, even if the statute of limitations it hasn't run out, we're going to add these federal crimes. But the Federal Election Committee and the Department of Justice did not level any crime at Trump. The FEC fined Clinton and the DNC, like I said.
2016, that so far the facts in court, the facts actually in evidence, just haven't borne out at all. But that's the basic problem here. That's why this case should have never been brought in the first place. There is no underlying crime. There was no conspiracy. And I think that's going to play out in court in the coming weeks. And I think Alvin Bragg's going to have major egg on his face here.
But Bragg, just one more. Bragg and Colangelo, brought in from Washington with a Biden connection, if you ask me. But anyway, that's another issue. Those guys are breathlessly talking about this new conspiracy argument. Okay, that's the they finally somebody said 2 misdemeanors is supposed to equal a felony. So now it's a conspiracy argument. What exactly was the conspiracy?
Well, that's the thing. In opening arguments, Colangelo said that Trump had engaged in a criminal conspiracy to corrupt the 2016 election, and then he covered it up. Now, the cover-up is the bookkeeping stuff, and we actually do know about that. That's what Trump is actually charged with. But the criminal conspiracy is where it gets really, really murky. And in court, another one of the lawyers said that the other law that Trump broke to justify elevating this into a felony, that other law was New York law. I think it's 15172.
Oh my gosh!
And that law makes it illegal to promote an election by unlawful means, but it leaves the unlawful means undefined.
Again, the FEC did not find it to be a crime. Furthermore, not one person would have changed their vote from Clinton to Trump, or from Trump to Clinton, had they known that he had potentially an affair with Stormy. So, you know, when Democrats say, well, it wasn't widespread enough to overturn results. Sure, there were possible criminal activity here and there. I remember, you know, that, sure, it was, you know, possible misconduct here and there throughout the country, but not enough to overturn results. And so how many votes would have been altered? How about 0? Nobody would have cared. The Honorable James Comey wrote the Comey letter, and that was really the reason Clinton lost.
And so what we have here is every day prosecutors are in court suggesting, hinting that there's a deep, dark criminal conspiracy going on here. And it will be the job of the Trump lawyers to say, look, there's nothing there. It's not illegal. The conspiracy was to get elected, which is another word for campaigning.
Right. Campaigning's not illegal. Non-disclosure stuff is not illegal. I'm still trying to figure. Look, Will Scharf, I'll read from the Wall Street Journal editorial today, okay? Todd Blanche, Mr. Trump's lawyer, said in his opening remarks that the ledger entries were done by an accountant named Deb Tarasoff. She's going to testify later, I guess. She was told when she got the invoice from Mr. Cohn to call it a legal expense, which is exactly what the invoice said. And that's exactly what she did. And then, after recording it, she generated a check, which was her job. Okay, now, is that fiddling with business records? I mean, it seems so straightforward. I don't even understand the business records controversy. I don't know. She was asked to get a check. It was done. It was paid. It was paid for non-disclosure reasons. All right, we may or may not know. I'm not going to get into the Stormy Daniels thing here, but
everyone knows what's going on. This has nothing to do with the rule of law. It has nothing. It's the epitome of what a despot, authoritarian, totalitarian tyrant does. They accuse Trump of going after his direct political opponents. He never did. Had he done that, he would perhaps wouldn't be in this situation. Perhaps the country would be better off because people who committed crimes would actually be, indicted. But he didn't. He didn't have the ability to. He didn't. And now they're going after him with everything they have, every single possible thing they have, and they can't. He's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. Everything they do to try to harm Trump, he just gets stronger. And if they jail him, his poll numbers will go through the roof. Only the imbeciles and very naive and foolish people, the wonderful pundits on the left, would be jumping for joy, not realizing that would only help Trump tremendously.
whatever. It's not the first time that politicians or celebrities want to withhold information and use these non-disclosed payments and so forth. Will, what's wrong with this? This woman, she was given her orders, she wrote a check, and I'm sure she mailed it out.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Larry. I think Todd's opening argument was right on the money. There was no crime here. These were accurate business records being recorded by a mid-level Trump Organization official in New York while President Trump was off running the country from the White House. They accurately reflected payments to President Trump's lawyer. And everything that you're hearing here, all of this conspiracy talk, all the talk about the 2016 election, it's a smokescreen to cover up for the fact that the basic facts that they need to prove that a crime was committed here simply don't exist. President Trump didn't do anything wrong. He didn't break the law. And they can put up witness after witness after witness. They can relitigate the 2016 election. None of that will change the basic facts here that the jury is going to hear. And we're hopeful that a fair and impartial jury will return an acquittal for exactly that reason.
All right, Byron, I want to get to the politics in a minute. Let me just play a little sound from David Axelrod, Team Obama. Those guys are smart. Here's what he said yesterday or the day before. Take a listen, please.
If he is a convicted felon, that's going to have material impact on him moving forward. If he should have a hung jury, which could happen, it could have the reverse effect, and it could be the beginning of his way out of this legal morass that he's in, because he will use it to taint all the other cases.
So, Byron.
Yes, and all the other cases are soiled and tainted as well. So everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows that Democrats are trying to imprison their direct political rival. This has nothing to do with the rule of law. Like I said, you can look here. Even his own special counsel said he had poor memory and diminished faculties, and then said, well, we can't indict Biden because no reasonable court would view him to be a criminal because he's a well-meaning elderly person with poor memory and diminished faculties. But with Trump, it's jail time, potentially, for doing nothing but speaking. And like I said, I still stand by he won't spend even 1 second in jail or prison for anything he's accused of. I have to admit, that was a slider or curveball that I did not see. The gag order is real. That's a serious issue that Trump has to face. I really don't know what the answer is. I'd rather he not be jailed, but you know what? If they do that to him, his poll numbers will rocket into outer space.
If it's a hung jury, he will use it to taint all the other cases. And the other point I'd raise, politically, I thought the Supreme Court's hearing yesterday about the immunity issue was quite favorable to Mr. Trump. And even if the court doesn't make a decision, I guess they'll come out with something in June-ish. They'll remand it to a lower court, which is going to take a long time. So, Byron, politically, is the Biden lawfare campaign, as I put it, is that losing steam? Is it even backfiring?
Well, it certainly backfired in the Republican primaries, where we saw that all the indictments actually increased Trump's popularity with the Republican electorate. Now, in the general election, the purpose is to affect those voters, those swing voters who might otherwise vote for Donald Trump, but who would not vote for him, or they say they wouldn't, if he were a convicted felon.
Trump could be in prison, in a jail cell, in a prison cell, and still defeat our current president, mashed potato brains.
The whole purpose of this Alvin Bragg trial is to be able to call Donald Trump a convicted felon. Now, we just had a new poll out from Quinnipiac, which has asked now last month and this month, if Trump were convicted, would that make you less likely to vote for him or more likely to vote for him? And the number of people who say it would make him more likely actually went up in the last month, right. And the number who say it would make them less likely actually went down in the last month. Yep. And
the average American doesn't care. There's a small base. You know when they talk about base of Trump supporters? There's a small base of Democrats that are so rabid, they're so desperate to imprison Trump in some way, shape, or form because they've been clueless for so many years about crimes that their politicians have allegedly committed. They don't care. They don't care about the rule of law. I mean, they get like favorable treatment from former Federal Bureau of Investigation directors. 50 intel officials come out of nowhere saying that Hunter's laptop was a plot by the Kremlin. They get, oh my God, they get the best. They have, could you imagine if Trump had courts in Florida or in Texas or in red states indicting Democrats, his direct rival? They would never stand for it. They would say that Trump is a tyrant, despot, authoritarian, totalitarian. Oh my God. But when they do it, it's about the rule of law.
And that's when people have been able to actually hear what's going on in the courtroom.
And you know what else is kind of fun here, Byron, on this? As you know, Mr. Trump is making use of whatever spare time he has outside of this courtroom downtown New York. So he goes into Harlem and talks to the bodegas and gets a big crowd. Yesterday, he went around the corner from our studios where there's Midtown New York and met with the construction workers who love the guy. Somebody came on Fox and Friends this morning and said by 3-1, union workers are going to vote for Trump. The poll came out yesterday. I don't know whose poll it was. Trump's only down 10 points in New York State. He lost it by 23 in
If he's down 10 points in New York and he's only down by 1 or 2 points in Minnesota, this is going to be a monumental landslide victory, people. I don't think that the average pundit or whatever, you could say that I'm a pundit or an analyst or, YouTuber. I don't think that the average person on the left of the political spectrum understands how strong Trump is politically and in the polls.
2020. He's closing in New York, Byron. What does that tell you?
Yeah, he may be running for governor. Listen, these things actually don't happen by accident. The bodega visit was arranged ahead of time, made a real point about Democrats and crime, specifically about Alvin Bragg and crime. The interesting thing about the stop yesterday at the construction site was that was Thursday morning. That happened just a few hours after Joe Biden in Washington appeared before the Association of Building Trades Unions. So all the kind of mucky mucks in suits, the union officials were there endorsing Joe Biden, and all the hard hats, the rank and file members who were working, were cheering Donald Trump. That was not an accident that those two came so close together.
Well, Sharf, just give me 30 more seconds. Immunity, give me your take on immunity. Will they make a decision? Will they remand lower courts? That's going to postpone the J6 trial, won't even happen before the election?
Yeah, look, I think the Supreme Court arguments yesterday couldn't have gone better for us. It was a lot of fun to be there. We felt really good coming out of those arguments. I think the court is justifiably thinking about this in terms of how to protect the institution of the presidency in the long term from exactly these sorts of political prosecutions that we're seeing play out against President Trump today. We're hopeful that we get a good opinion out of them. The most likely result there would be a remand back to the district court for fact-finding around the immunity issue. I think the key takeaway, though, is, as you said, it's becoming increasingly unlikely that any of these other trials move to trial before the November 2024 election.
That's 100% right. And I've been telling you, ladies and gentlemen, for months and months, he's going to get a huge victory on immunity. Presidential immunity. He's allowed to perform a speech. They indicted him on fraud, but you could do that with Biden. You could do that with other presidents too. Okay, Biden lied about knowing Hunter's business deals. In fact, we have testimony from numerous people that he was a part of them. So, and the emails show that. And I mean, there's more evidence implicating Biden and others, Clinton with private servers, top secret intelligence on servers. It's impossible to put them on servers. It's impossible. Okay, and what Biden did is probably worse than what Clinton did. Clinton probably got tacit approval from Obama. Okay? President Obama probably allowed her to have those servers. Okay? But these are all highly illegal things that Democrats get away with. Trump, it's just unbelievable. His poll numbers will go through the roof. There's a chance, ladies and gentlemen, that they jail him. I don't think it's likely, but I'm giving my audience, I'm giving my audience the truth about the possibility. I think it's about 15%, 85% chance that 85% chance that he won't get jailed, but 15, 20, who knows? Who knows? Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very, very much. God bless you all. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks, everybody.